This is probably the craziest action film you will see in a long time. In terms of the violence is just crazy. It's really graphic, and the kills are so inventive. Like some of the most inventive things I've ever seen in any movie. But it's absolutely, like, the action is fantastic. The Night Comes for Us is a crazy, crazy martial art action film. These guys in Indonesia are just smashing it. The Indonesian action industry is the new Hong Kong. It's a new mecca for martial arts action. It really is. You know, we had The Raid 2, we've had plenty of other films, and Headshot, Iko Uwais, I think his name is pronounced. Forgive me if I'm wrong. He's brilliant. He's fantastic. He's not even the lead in this film. The lead actor, I forget his name, but I thought he was really good. He's also in The Raid as well. He plays one of the SWAT officers that is partnered with Iko in The Raid, the first Raid. And I thought he was really good here. It's a really good lead role, and I think he had a good presence. His action scenes were fantastic. The acting was really good as well. I really liked the dynamic between him and the little girl in the film as well. Story wise, it was okay. I mean, I don't think the plot was really strong. I was following it, but I wasn't really following it, if you know what I mean. I was just you're just so distracted by the crazy action when it happens. It does take a little bit of time to start. You see at the beginning there's something that happens. Again, I'm not doing a spoiler review here, so I'm not going to spoil the movie in terms of its plot and all of that. Not that I think that there's that much to spoil, but there is in terms of the action. I'm not going to tell you some of the crazy kills that happened in this film. Because I was sitting there like, ooh, ooh, ooh. It's one of those films. I tell you, it's one of those films that you want to watch with an audience. Because I remember seeing The Raid and The Raid 2 in the cinema with a crowd, you know, and I remember seeing The Raid 2 with some of my friends from Arnis, you know, and I remember just sitting there with them. Andy, if you're watching, remember when we watched The Raid, you know, Vasquez, if you're watching, Neve, I don't remember if you came, but yeah. I just remember there was a bunch of us that went to go see it. It was so good, man. So our group, we do like Arnis, which is a Filipino martial art, very similar in terms of some of the weapons that they use, like karambits and knife fighting, stick fighting, hand-to-hand combat, as a lot of the Indonesian martial arts, which is utilized in these films. The martial art of Silat, which Iko Uwais, I forget his name. I always forget pronounce his name right. But he studies. So, you know, we went there obviously to really watch what kind of action they really deployed in these films in terms of obviously those martial arts. And obviously we just love kick-ass martial art movies. Just the experience of watching with a crowd and all the kind of ooh moments that you're watching when some of these like fight scenes are happening. And this was a film I think, because I watched it by myself, you know, at home on Netflix, you know, because it's great that Netflix had this available, but I would have loved to have gone to experience this for the first time in the cinema with a crowd, you know, because just the energy in the cinema when everybody in the cinema, you got like hundreds of people going ooh, ooh, you know, at the moments, and there were so many more moments in this film than The Raid in terms of the crazy kills, the crazy inventive fighting that happens in the film. It's just like, what is this? Like, how are they even doing this? You know, how did they even let them get away with this, you know? But one thing I do like about the fact they show a lot of graphic violence, obviously for entertainment purposes, love it. As a martial art action film fan, you love to see like craziness on screen. But I think it's important as well. Obviously this isn't for kids or for people who aren't mature audiences, but for people, I think it's important for people to understand what violent actions do to the human body. You know, it's not pleasant, it's not nice, it's not like the hero just and walks off into the sunset like and without a scratch like in some movies. You know, it's like showing the consequences of violence. It's showing the consequences of getting into a street fight, of getting into a fight with weapons, you know, the reality of having multiple opponents, you know, attacking, you know, a couple of people, or attacking one person. You know, it doesn't end well, you know, even for the person who walks away. So, man, just, it's hard to really talk about this film in a non-spoiler way. I'll probably have to do a spoiler review, you know, and have a discussion with you about it, you know, and see if you, once you've seen it. If you have seen it, obviously leave a comment down below. Non-spoiler one on this one. Let me know if you loved the film and what you loved about it in terms of if you like the action and the story and all of that. I just think it's so hard to actually talk about the movie in terms of the action and some of the things that were happening without spoiling it, because I feel like you have to watch it. You just have to watch it for the first time and not know anything. Because luckily, I mean, I had seen some reviews and people were really raving on about how great it was, but none of those reviews spoiled it. Although I did see a review after I saw the film. I watched a couple of reviews after the film, and somebody who was reviewing the film did kind of spoil some of the action that happened in the film, and I would have been annoyed if I'd watched it before the film, because it's something that you don't want to wait for it to happen. It just, when the stuff happens, it's kind of like, ooh, you're not expecting it, and you're like, oh my god, that's crazy, ooh. So it's one of those movies that you kind of have to experience for the first time and enjoy it as a film that's just gonna surprise you, shock you, kind of entertain you, kind of have you going on this emotional roller coaster, because you do care about the characters. Although the story and the plot wasn't the strongest point of the movie, it does have enough of a plot and a story, and the characters you do have an emotional connection to the characters enough to care about what's happening once the action does start. So I thought it was very well shot as well. Some beautiful cinematography in terms of this film. And in terms of the acting, like I said, the acting was all strong. There's some great female characters in this movie who's displayed some great action, including the girl who played Hammer Girl in the Raid 2. She's in the movie as well, and I thought she was great. There was two women in particular I really liked. There was the blonde woman, and she has this like blade, and there's another woman with this other interesting weapon who I kind of thought I think they were kind of partners. They were partners. And I thought their demeanor was very intimidating because the fighting skills were very good. And what I like about the female characters in these movies is they feel believable. Like the way that they do the action and the way the violence is and the way that they execute it, it feels believable. It feels like they could do these things to these men in the fight that they're fighting, and that they're a match, you know. They use their strengths rather than trying to make them a male version, a woman version of a male, if you know what I mean. It's hard to explain unless you watch the film and you see the action for yourself, but you'll know what I mean when you see it, and if you have seen it, you know what I mean. It's just great. Well, I hope you know what I mean anyway. But it's just very well crafted. But yeah, the movie was fantastic in terms of that. I mean, the first hour, I would say I wasn't like overly impressed with the choreography. I was like, there's a lot of shock value in terms of all this crazy kind of kills and crazy violence that's happening. But I wasn't like overly impressed with the martial arts in it. I think maybe it's because of the characters that were highlighted. They weren't specifically like necessarily the martial art characters. But then again, there was martial arts happening. But the second half of the film, the fight scenes were brilliant. Like, absolutely brilliant. Like, the first time I was kind of like, okay, I see why everyone loves this. There's a lot of crazy kills and it's very shocking. The second half, then you had the shockingness of the crazy kills with the crazy action. And it was just like, my mouth, my jaw dropped. Like, I was like, oh. So yeah, I think you'll definitely enjoy this movie if you love action, if you don't mind the over-the-top violence of a lot of these Indonesian action movies. You'll love this movie. If you're not into gore and over-the-top violence, probably leave this film. You're missing out on a crazy experience, but you know, probably don't watch this. Definitely not for kids or children, obviously. But yeah, I give it a 4.5 out of 5. Definitely worth checking out. I know what your question is to me right now. Is it as good as The Raid and The Raid 2? It's different. It's not. It's obviously you know, a lot of the same people. Iko Uwais is in it, even though he's not the main star. I was more wowed by the action in terms of the martial arts choreography in The Raid and The Raid 2. But there's still some fantastic choreography in this, and it's crazy. I finished watching Daredevil season 3, which was brilliant. A bit overrated, I think, even though again I love Daredevil. I'm a big Daredevil fan, love season 1 and 2, but I think the way people were talking about season 3, they overhyped it a little bit. But it was still, don't get me wrong, it doesn't make it not good. It was brilliant. It was still brilliant, and the action was still brilliant. But then I watched this next and it made the action in Daredevil look minor. You realize there's a huge gap between the stunt work and the fight choreography and the action storytelling from Indonesia and in the East right now, and what they're doing in Hollywood. Even though the Hollywood action has improved immensely with films like John Wick, and you've got Atomic Blonde, and you've got some great action in a lot of the Marvel movies now, and a lot of the action movies now use a lot of good martial arts action without being martial art films per se. And then you watch something like The Night Comes For Us, or you watch The Raid 2, and it's just like it's almost like night and day. There's just they just have this very good way of storytelling and real creativity in terms of crafting together these action movies. They just really know, it's like that renaissance of the Hong Kong action, kung fu action that we had, in the 90s, 80s, 70s, back in the day when, Jet Li, Donnie Yen, Jackie Chan were at their prime, and we were watching the Shaw Brothers movies and the Golden Harvest movies, and they were just churning out classic after classic after classic. And now we have the Indonesian film industry who are really just upping the game, and bringing the martial arts silat to the big screen, as opposed to kung fu. It's a different style. It uses a lot more weapons, and there's a lot of like gunplay as well. Their stories seem to be centered more around gangster storytelling as well. So the violence is very hot. It's very extreme violence, but it shows again the consequences of using these martial arts and using these weapons, and what gang violence is like, and just to an extreme over the top kind of martial arts kick-ass fun kind of action flick way, and yeah, I think we're in a new renaissance of martial arts action with the Indonesian film industry. And I think Iko Uwais, right now, he's the biggest, or the best, should I say, martial arts action star right now. I would say so, because he's new, he's upcoming, he's where, I saw Donnie Yen earlier on in his career, and Jet Li earlier on in his career. He's at that, Tony Jaa as well, in the On Back 2 time. This is now Iko Uwais' time to shine. You see him in 22 Mile, Hollywood are paying attention now. Obviously they have to, because these movies are just so fantastic, and his skill set and the skill set of the Indonesian stunt teams and people are just so high level, so they're bringing them to Hollywood. So love to see, I can't wait to see more from the Indonesian film industry. And yeah, I'm definitely checking this one out again. Definitely check it out. Crazy action, crazy movie, crazy violence, but again, it's good fun. You'll enjoy it if you're into this kind of movie, if you're into martial arts action movies, and I'm sure you are if you're watching this, if you're watching my channel. Anyway, I'll see you next time for another video, and remember, behind every fight is a great story. Peace.